with their set. Two very strong runners, having to get through some very strong competition to get this far, so I'm sure they'll be putting on a great show for us tonight. I'm Clover, and I'm joined in the virtual comedy booth by Solaris. Hi, Solaris. How are you feeling about this one?
Hi, Klopfer. I'm feeling quite good. microKorgs and Pushwall, two very talented runners. Pushwall especially getting through in his bracket, getting through Flurry and Blue Cat Loach to get to this quarterfinals round. Very well done by him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be a blast.
Exactly. Very strong competition he's had to get through, so definitely showing good skill in this tournament. So this is game number 2 here. First game did go to microKorgs here, so he's behind, but I think he's shown the strength up to this point that it's going to be good competition in here, and so very well could be leading us into that game number 3.
Yeah, definitely. And with our hero Kain, which first of all you might be wondering, what is a hero? I've played Final Fantasy IV before, I don't remember this. This is a randomizer thing in our randomizer where the hero is the character we always start with. There won't be a duplicate Kain, and Kain will have to fight the mirror ordeals room by himself, and Kain will also be agility is black magic, but just know that if you know what agility is, it's going to be all about Kain. Kain is a fast hero, which can be a challenge for some runners, so this is one of my favorite heroes, actually, to watch.
Yeah, it can definitely be interesting seeing him there due to most of what you're talking about, those agility anchoring situations you deal with, especially with the objectives we have here, with one of our 2 random objectives there being conquering the vanilla crystal sword altar, means going up to the moon and finishing 2 objectives will have to happen. We'll have to be doing at least one of those 2 on the moon. And moon boss fights can get challenging with a really high agility anchor character. So I think it'll be exciting to see how our runners end up finishing off these, whatever is their last objective of the 4 of these 5 they need to finish off.
I also want to point out and appreciate microKorgs naming his Kain Spear. Just Spear.
Kain's most powerful weapon, Spear. No, wait, that's a starter weapon. Actually, an interesting part with Kain being hero and that 3rd objective there, the Forge, is he can get some really, really powerful gear there. So I was saying, it can be challenging to take on some of those moon bosses, but if you get him that Able Lance, he really can solve a lot of the late game seed on his own with that power.
Oh my god, yeah. So the way Forge normally works in this game is that you would get the Excalibur from the Adamant and the Legend Sword, but in our randomizer with the hero flag, we get Game Boy Advance weapons instead, which are in-game powerful weapons, most of them, tailored to... in this, they'll be tailored to Kain. So one of them is Abel's Lance, which is basically a crystal sword. This is the best weapon in the game, but it's a lance. There's also a Gigant Axe. There's... They're all pretty good for Kain. So if we get to Forge, it'll be very powerful. But in the meanwhile, we're off to the races here. Good start with the Rosa.
Yeah, our runners have to be happy to see that. Getting a white mage, and arguably the best white mage in the game right off the bat like that, is immediately kind of, some relief there. You know you're going to have white magic through the entirety of the seed, being able to cure up your party, getting Berserk eventually. It's just so nice to see.
Oh yeah, especially on this flag set. Really, actually, any more challenging flag set, white mages are very powerful because obviously curing. Also, just the spell Blink lets anyone you cast it on avoid the next 3 physical attacks. Blink alone can tank almost any boss in the game. Very powerful.
Yeah, a lot of... So we did get there as our starter item, the package, and so Pushwall is interested, it seems, in checking that immediately. microKorgs, you can see we're having a little bit of technical difficulty on his side. We'll get that back up for you as soon as possible, but oh, wow. Pushwall, while stopping for his package there, does peek his head into the mist cave and finds the Wyvern, which not interested in taking on right now, but knowing where that is to complete objective 1 is huge information.
Yeah, and also seeing that Palin behind the package. Usually the package, the cutscene, and battle, there's an entire thing you have to go through Usually takes a couple of minutes, so runners tend to not do the package. But when you get it this early, and Palom is a very powerful black mage, if we don't find Palom in the other two spots that are available right off the gates for these runners, we might come back for that. And then the Wyvern is it's only like 400 hit points at that spot, but with spear, and iron arrow shortbow, I don't think we'd be able to deal enough damage before it starts casting nuke. So we're gonna have to come back.
Yeah, Pushwall seems to totally agree with you and goes, well, let's go ahead and get some looting done with, especially this team, going ahead and picking up some items is what you need to get that power online. Kane is great in that he can equip a lot of different really good gear, but you have to go and loot some to be able to find that. And so we see the Watery Pass loot, which is a pretty common looting spot. The other common one being Eblin Castle. But a little trickier there, so there's trap chests you need to avoid. Or we can't really avoid them. You run into them and reset, because there's no way this party could take them on. In fact, looks like microKorgs just came back up and is going down that Evan Castle.
Yeah, Kane is able to wear a number of spears and axes, so probably has the widest array of weaponry that he can equip of the kind of starting characters you can get. And we see our runners going to two spots. Yeah, like you said, they're a little out of the way, these two spots, the Watery Pass and Castle Eblin, so they're weighted a little bit better because you don't have to go there for any like objectives or key items. So they end up being good spots to get loot. Looks like Pushwall is interested in going into the back of Mist. By going into the back, you don't trigger the cutscene to start the package. Because normally in the vanilla game, this is where you would unfortunately burn this village down. Pushwall finding an hourglass too, that's really big. That casts an AoE stop.
Yeah, definitely is nice. That can be really useful. Say he wants to take on one of these trap chests to get items from it. That'll work on all of those trap chests. As well as there's a handful of bosses that aren't actually bosses, so they don't have the boss bit set, and thus can be stopped. So that could also be nice if you say don't run into any of those freebie bosses early on in the game. Maybe save that for the moon to help you get through some of those harder locations if you get lucky and the boss shows up there.
I also love Pushwall checking these shops here because there are a number of weapons. Like we said, you can loot a good number of weapons for Kane. You can also just buy them, and buying the Ogre Axe, that is, that's basically an endgame axe. It's not the best weapon, but it's pretty darn good, and it's going to be enough to take on that Mist Dragon by itself.
Yep, definitely. I think that's can be really good. Just do looting somewhere to get you some gear you could sell to get money, and then just buy a relatively strong weapon to get you through that first few boss locations, and especially as you start getting some more gated locations, can get higher loot that way. He did also spot the Curse Ring, which is an interesting find sometimes for being able to get that agility manipulation, but as you guys mentioned, Kane is just so fast, it's hard to get his agility down to an acceptable level, so it looks like Pushwall isn't too interested in grabbing that Curse Ring.
And I think that's a Palom in bed there. I always go by the hair. The hair is going to the right.
I can never pick those up. So it's a twin in there. I'll agree with you on that one. But yeah, if that is that Palom there, then could save us having to do that package check if we can stumble on the Sand Ruby, which is definitely a big open question.
Yeah, that's a big if. Might not get a Sand Ruby until the very end of the game. It's good information to have. Also, having an Elven Bow for Rosa here. Elven Bow's a pretty good Elven Bow, and what was that, like mute arrows? Rosa's actually going to do pretty decent damage early game too.
Yep, and especially if you run into any of the mage boss enemies, you now have mage killing gear, so you'll be doing a lot of extra damage to them. What do we find up here? Ooh, Tella is definitely interested in this flag set as he enables the D-Machine grind, so a good way to get the levels you need, as grinding can be somewhat of a challenge in here, although you do have to get through the dolls, which is a problem unless you have a good AoE item, as we see Pushwall here throwing out his Zeus Rage.
Yeah, so the Zeus Rage and the Boreas I've seen Pushwall's inventory cast Lit 2 and Ice 2, good enough to kill these dolls. However, I want to point out microKorgs. Was watching him equip that Rosa while his stream was out. We kind of missed what he got in Eblin. I saw a Protect Ring and a Heroine Robe on that Rosa.
Those are some nice finds, especially that Heroine Robe early on. We were kind of talking about, hey, you need to get some good equipment, get some damage out. That will give Rosa a lot of extra physical stats, strength and agility, so then any weapon you throw on her, she'll be able to use it pretty well and get many turns to just keep firing it off. So definitely good finds there for microKorgs to get through early parts of the seed.
Yeah, that heroine robe is huge. It is a very, very powerful piece of gear. It has a ton of stats on it. It's very defensive. It turns really any of the few archers that we have in this game into murder machines. Rosa is significantly faster now than really anyone else in microKorgs' party and will be the star for him for most of the overworld now.
Yeah. And in fact, that power already coming in handy for microKorgs is when he finds that wyvern, feels confident enough to take it on and just immediately wipes it out, finishing off objective number 1. As he goes kind of retrace Pushwall is now a step of finding out who's up here on helps. Pushwall, though, moving on into the Antline Cave, which will be our first key item pickup. So get through the boss location here, which he shouldn't have too much of a problem doing, and then find out what his item is.
All right, looks like it's the D-Lunars at Antline. These can be tricky at the wrong location because when you physically attack them, they put up a wall and then start bouncing viruses off themselves, which is very painful. But at this location with the hit points split in half in 2 entities, just using that Gaiadrome destroys them immediately. Yeah. And we get an objective item. This is the Twin Harp. This is objective number 4 when our runners feel they're ready enough to take it on.
Yeah, definitely much higher level area than the Antline here, the Twin Harp location. So it is on the overworld. We can go do it in a point in time, but yeah, I'd have to imagine our runners are not feeling like they have the power necessary to take on that spot. But again, a really nice thing to just know, go do this whenever I get the power necessary to, and just check off another objective and pick up a key item at the same time. So we need to finish 4 of these 5 objectives already known, which means if we find that darkness crystal, which turns on being able to do 2 more objectives, we can be in go mode. Depending on where that darkness is, this could end up being a pretty jetty seed.
Oh wow, you're right about that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a moment of panic. You know that your opponent is going to get that.
Especially because we also did just find Tella, which even means Darkness Crystal also turns on the grind. So it really could go very fast if that happens.
Yeah, so very quickly what that enables. The Darkness Crystal is your way to the moon. It's also your way to the Giant. And on the Giant with a Tella, it's a vanilla strategy that we use in the randomizer. You can find an encounter that has something called a D machine, and you essentially kill enough of them to get end game levels on your party with a very low level party. So that's something that our runners will be able to do once they get a full team of 5 party members, most likely. Pushwall finding an Octomam, kind of swimming in granite.
It's a very impressive octopus, just the places he finds himself, and just really has no problem swimming through anything. I do always like finding him on Ordeals somehow swimming through a bridge, but we can't see the rest of him.
Swimming through a bridge and then falling off of it, that's probably my favorite spot to find.
Very talented octopus. Definitely not too challenging of a battle for him here. I mean, take advantage of the lightning weakness there with his Tella, and you kind of see every time he's getting hit here, losing some tentacles, that drops down his speed. So you can find Octomom in some more challenging locations. Can be not too bad if you can get through the first few rounds, as you just knock the speed down significantly as you keep hitting it, and the end of the fight can get pretty easy.
Yeah, this is a boss I love to find late game. Don't really love to see it early game because of that reason, but that's okay. We're through. Yep. We'll get our key item. We'll move on.
Exactly. And definitely be interesting to see where our runners do want to go. The Twin Harp is interesting, although somewhat challenging, but does give us that objective. With that Tella, I think there's a lot of incentive to went ahead and go do Ordeals, which will unlock Tella's full spell list. So there was the reference to D-Machine grinds. You do need the weak spell in order to do that quickly, and so that's one way to get, or that's the way to get Tella to learn that spell, is by finishing Ordeals.
Yeah, and if we weren't already in a jetty go mode, the Fabul defense has given us a pass, and that pass, this is another randomizer specific item. Well, it's in the vanilla game, but the way we use it in the randomizer, when you go to Troya and turn in the pass, they go, okay, you can go straight to the final boss. Now, of course, they actually need the crystal to be able to transform Zemus and actually defeat him, but it's just a faster way to get to that final boss. Always nice to have it.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those items you're just kind of happy to see, because you just go, okay, I can kind of do my objectives in any order now. I don't have to have too strong planning around how I finish these off to know I'm already close to Zemus. Whenever you finish your last objective, wherever you are in the world, it's not going to take you too long now to just go ahead and start that fight. As well as it means you can maybe do your grind at any point in time. You don't need to do it before finishing some objectives. You can just wait until you have them all done and then just go do that. Do your grind, and from wherever you are, head off to Zemus fight. microKorgs going ahead and swing by for bullet defense as well, so it did pick up his twin harp, and one thing to find out what the other key item is here. Well, Pushwall does indeed head over to Ordeals, so getting a chance at another key item to unlock potentially more of the seed, as well as get that full spell list on Tella, some extra power to help him get through whatever he wants to tackle after this.
Yeah, Ordeals is always, especially with oh, this is a Kane here, not a Tella here. My brain's always thinking about Tella in the mirror room, because that can get really rude. But Kane, okay, so we're at Ordeals. The third boss here, Kane will have to fight alone because of the hero thing. But Kane can take on probably most bosses at this point with that Ogre Axe on. And really the thing runners are looking for right now, obviously they're looking for progression in the seed in general. They want a Darkness Crystal. Darkness immediately would actually be very interesting, but what they want is underground access. This is the Magma Key or the Hook. It has to be rewarded from an overworld check in order to be able to progress through more of the seed. So that's really the big thing we're looking for right now. And
speaking of getting key items to unlock more of the seed, there is D-Mist, also sometimes referred to as bonus round. So when we finish off this boss, we'll be able to return to the Mist Village where we saw opening up the package, and get another key item by speaking to Rydia's mother. We'll be there. So definitely nice 2 key items now from going through Ordeals. We didn't know that was going to be the case coming into this location, but making this spot extra valuable to check now. Although I know I always find this one a little bit of a challenge, is running into D-Mist here. It's a bit of time until you're able to go and check that, and it can be easy to forget you've done D-Mist on the first spot in Ordeals.
I've never done that before.
No, never. It's never happened to anyone. No. But again, 2 very strong runners. I'm sure we'll see them wrap that in, and potentially not even do it immediately. They might try to find out the most optimal time, because again, you really want to go, we are running the seed, we're trying to do as fast as possible, so any ways you can minimize your flying around time is going to help you. So if you can wait till you're kind of in the neighborhood of Mist to turn it in, can be some really, heads up play.
It's interesting to note that with the Wyvern and D-Mist already found now, both of our boss hunts are done. So
yeah, definitely that is a good call out, because there are some places where sometimes you just want to peek because of bosses, or maybe you prefer doing a key item check because it's 2 bosses to get through that when you still have boss hunts left on the table. But not having that open can really change your routing.
And Pushwall finds the zombie dance party. This is one of my favorite alt gauntlets. Do you want to explain what the alt gauntlet is?
For sure. So the gauntlet is one of our boss locations. And in the alt gauntlet, what we do here is we pull enemies from the location. So in Ordeals here, we see a bunch of the zombie fights. And depending on where you find it, say on the moon, you pull moon enemies, which can make some very tricky fights here. But what you have to do is beat 5 of these kind of random encounter fights to get through this boss fight. Finding it in this spot is especially interesting, because this is the boss fight that is the back attack slot, which means you're going to do 5 fights where you're getting back attacked, which means the enemies get a turn before you do. So it can just be extra kind of painful to get through the fight, just so you have to watch all these attacks go off before you even get a chance to start to reduce the enemy numbers.
Yeah, and one of these encounters, I think it's 6 or 8 zombies.
Mm-hmm. Which,
that's
when
why
you
I call
find
it the zombie dance party, and they all have to attack before you get to do anything. That flame spear that just happened to be on Ordeals when you use it as an item, casting fire too, killing all these zombies. Very, very nice to have found that.
Yeah,
We'll speed this up quite a bit.
Yeah, especially against zombies, as they are weak to that fire. Although they do get occasionally mixed in here with these ghost-like enemies who absorb fire, so you can wipe out half the combat quickly, but we'll still have to clean up the other ones. But yeah, so definitely not too scary of a fight for either microKorgs or Pushwall here, but just time-consuming. Having to go through 5 fights is already slow, and then when their back attacks make it that much slower.
The other nice thing about finding this is that you know that you can't. You know that you're not going to have to deal with this elsewhere. This can't show up at the Crystal Sword altar, for instance.
Oh, yes. Definitely would not want to see it there. So you're right. It's kind of nice to take this out of the pool and not have to worry about it at that point in time.
And there's the full zombie dance party, 7 of them in V formation.
Looks like a real happening party there. They're all having a good time. Much better than our runners' time are having right now, I imagine.
I like to think Thriller is just playing in the background.
So this is also, I was going to say nice. It's not really super nice, but at least a plus to doing this is you are getting a bit of experience from doing all these fights, which will get you some extra levels on Kane, just to make that Crystal Room fight for him just every little bit extra safer. Again, he's definitely by no means the worst hero to have to go in and take that fight on his own, but just having extra levels, give him a bit bigger of an HP pool, can be nice, just in case you run into one of the ruder bosses in that spot.
Yeah, Kane being as fast as he is and having access to good weaponry for both our runners, I can't really think of much of anything that would cause too much concern.
Yeah, I think probably one of the main things you didn't want to see was the gauntlet fight, simply because you only have one character to get through all of those combats. Again, it wouldn't be terribly scary, it'd just be slow with only one fighter there. So, hey, you know you're not going to run into that in the Crystal Room now. And Pushwall getting through that fight first, was here a little before microKorgs, but microKorgs definitely making good pace through these fights, and like definitely came in a fair bit behind Pushwall here, but just one all gauntlet fight behind him now.
And something I want to point out that I think is very interesting about Pushwall as a runner, we noticed Pushwall go to Silvera before coming to Ordeals. I've noticed Pushwall is one of these runners who loves to loot early and often and then do a lot of shopping early to kind of get an early power spike, and tends to do that so efficiently that he's still ahead of microKorgs here despite having done that extra shopping. Very interesting. Lit Bolt is not the reward.
Not what we were hoping to see, but again, we did get that D-Mist clear, so we do have a chance of picking up another key item on our way back to Mist, as well as there still is potential progression in the Baron Inn, and also that Twin Harp we picked up. So we still have multiple places to find our way underground here. So
this is another freebie fight you really don't want to see where it is right now. So this is the Officer 3 soldiers. Sometimes they punch kind of hard, but generally the 3 soldiers die, and then the officer puts on his brave face and runs away.
Yeah, very strategic runaway is what that is. So the fight wasn't going his way, and retreating is probably just the best thing to do here.
Yeah.
So with the Ordeals Crystal Room here finished, we do get the full spell list here for Tella, which will make him he was already somewhat useful, coming with a few utility spells to begin with, but now he has access to almost every spell in the game, which is just a huge amount of utility, and even for these early parts of the game, being able to cast that high level spells means he can dish out a good chunk of damage as well.
Yeah, but finding this all gauntlet, not all gauntlet, officer soldiers, we've seen Octomem now. I guess we haven't seen too many bosses yet, but definitely as a runner, when I'm playing through and I start to see freebie after freebie or easy boss after easy boss, I start to get more and more nervous about what I have to deal with later.
Yeah, especially knowing with these objectives, you're going to be doing some moon boss fights. Yeah, seeing those freebies go out of the pool is a little concerning. Pushwall having that hourglass too, I imagine really would like to save all of the bosses that can be hit by hourglass. Was really hoping to not see them up until this point.
Looks like Pushwall is remembering to turn in that D-Mist. We'll do that right away. And it routes in nicely too, because you want to go to Baron Inn at this point, and then probably Twin Harp afterwards.
Yep.
We're kind of running out of options for underground access.
Exactly. Because this wasn't it. Ninja shirt. A really good piece of equipment for Edge, who we don't have. Also sells for a decent chunk of money, but definitely not our progression. Pushwall did also only peak the Wyvern. He hasn't taken it out yet, so we'll see if he'll take on that now that he's in the neighborhood before likely heading on over to Baron Inn.
So is Rydia's mom a ninja this seed? Is that what we're learning?
That's the only reasonable explanation. So yes, Summoner Ninja sounds like a dangerous combination.
Summoner Ninja, I love that.
I would pick that job if it's available in a Final Fantasy game.
Right? Yeah. Same.
Yeah. You summon ninjas? Okay. microKorgs going ahead and checking out Baron Inn first here before turning in his demist check. So we'll get to see. We have 2 boss fights to get through the Baron Inn, but that rewards us with another character and a key item.
So you summon ninjas that summon summons, and then they summon ninjas.
That sounds extremely powerful. I definitely want that person in my party.
That's how I've decided this works.
So we do get a sneak peek here. The character will be joining our party, which is Sid. He's a decent melee fighter, not the strongest by any means. He's kind of slow, which can be a bit challenging there with Kain being so fast. It makes Sid relatively fairly slow, but definitely better than no one, because we currently only have 3 characters, so he will be added to our party as a 4th member.
Also, shout out to this inn's treasury just having chump change. It was like 10 GP, 20 GP, 30 GP.
I mean, it's nicer than the alternative, which is that could have been a junk item instead. You would have had to sell for 10 GP, so this flag set does go ahead and replace those junk items with just money to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Kainatsu at the Baron Inn 2 spot. This is kind of rude. The spot has, what, 3,000 or 4,000 health? But Tella showing off his new spell list. Kainatsu weak against the ice element, just getting destroyed immediately on Pushwall's side. But on microKorgs' side, Tella got punched down. So now Kainatsu puts up the wave. Now he's weak to lightning and will cast this wave attack that does damage based on his current hit points. Party is so low on health that I actually don't think it's going to be a problem now.
Yeah, so the nice part about this one is it is very slow. So you're able to dish out a lot of damage before that first wave cast comes out. And so you can see there microKorgs, even though he wasn't able to take advantage of the elemental weakness, still dished out tons of damage and really brought the wave down to a manageable level. On Pushwall's side, though, we do see the key item, which is the hook. So that is our potential underground access there. We are able to use that to go through the hook route, which is definitely the more challenging way to get underground, as we have to go through at least one very hard boss location, and depending on who shows up in the King, Queen, Evelyn spots, that can sometimes be 2 hard bosses.
Yeah, definitely. Now, for the sake of efficiency, and it's an objective, I expect Pushwall to head towards the Twin Harp next. Mm-hmm. You want to get this out of the way now. This is an easier spot in the game to deal with than the hook route anyways, and it's an objective. The Dark Elf location, which is where the Twin Harp is, notoriously has almost perfect magic defense, but we've got a good melee party here, so that's not really going to be a concern. So it's nice to take care of this now, get the objective out of the way, maybe stumble on a magma key, which is the other way underground. That could happen, but otherwise clear everything else out and then only go down the hook route once, instead of going down, getting the character, coming back, and then having to come back a second time.
Exactly. I think finding that Sid in the Baron Inn makes Pushwall maybe a little more confident about going ahead and doing this. Now he has these 2 strong melee fighters. microKorgs probably felt all right with that Heroine Rogue on Rozo, but he already had 2 decent damage dealers who didn't have to use magic. But definitely routing this in now is good for the reasons you were mentioning, as well as just a little bit of extra XP can be really nice in case the boss we find on that hook route is a mean one. You want to get every little bit of power you can before taking that on, and since we have to do this check at some point anyway, let's get it done now.
Yeah, definitely. And Sid not being one of the better, he's not a great end game party member, but he's a very strong early game. Even that wooden hammer he starts with, if you have nothing better, is not like, it's not the worst weapon ever. But yeah, definitely will help the party out now. But in the meanwhile, after this cutscene boss, which Sid is using this item to destroy himself and Tella in one go. We're trying to get through this cutscene faster. Unfortunately, Dark Elf starts casting anyways, which will probably destroy the party. Ooh, Sid survived with 2
So
hit
close.
points. That's kind of rude. Anyways, after we get through this cutscene, we're going to get to the part where we would normally play Edward's tune, but this is a randomizer. We've randomized the music. It could be anything. We'll find out what it is, so please enjoy that.
Definitely a very catchy song. Don't quite recognize where it's from myself. Chat guessing Xenogears, maybe? But definitely a really nice one. Pushwall getting the Legend Sword out of this. This is one half of the Forge. We have been talking about doing the other 4 objectives, but if we can get the Forge beforehand, definitely would like to do that. And having to get through the guards fight, which showing good use of a boss there who does have the boss bit enabled. So being able to use the weak spell to get through it quickly. But again, one more of those bosses we won't have access to later in the game without the boss bit on.
Yeah, and it was smart to use weak there because you either want to use weak, which puts the enemy down to single-digit hit points, or the mute spell, because those guards like to counter with either Mini or Piggy, which could be really annoying. Also, that Legend Sword means that this is a hard required objective. You have to do the Twin Harp to get to this seed, so it's a good thing we have it early. Even though we know Darkness is go mode anyways. And right, it's the spotlight is a thing for microKorgs. It is amazing. Go follow microKorgs, by the way. and all of our runners and our restream team. But enjoy this music reprise. microKorgs being a man of the people, showing us that this is Orca's theme from Okami. Thank you so much for that. Going to be getting his Legend Sword, and we'll also be heading down the hook route as well. So really these runners are... Pushwall's like just slightly ahead, but they're pretty neck and neck.
Yeah, definitely very close at this point in time. Pushwall did go ahead and do some shopping here in Edwin Cave and found a heroin rope for sale. So he did go ahead and buy one. So he'll also have a heroin rope now for his Rosa as well, which could be very useful for depending on the fight up here, which we have Karate waiting for us at that spot and a Rydia to add to our party. He did also peek the item shop there. I'm not sure if there were Leviathans for Rydia there, but if it is, that could be a nice power spike for her once you get a few levels on.
It's kind of funny actually seeing Gang makes me want to take that heroin rope off right away. So what Karate does in his script is that he will punch and then kick and just repeat that ad nauseum. The kick at that spot will do maybe a couple hundred hit points of damage, which over a long period of time actually can kind of hurt. Pushwall exiting, not interested in taking this hook route immediately. Might want to shop for that Rydia, might be heading to Eblin. I'm gonna guess this is an Eblin play. Yep.
Yeah, so see, definitely probably feeling that boss is rude enough. Yeah, those kicks will add up as you're chewing through all 20,000, some 25,000 HP in that location. So maybe it feels like, hey, I need to get a little more power online here. Let's go ahead and loot Eblin Castle. Maybe even take on the trap chest now that he's coming here at level 20. That is on the table for him, which gives him another chunk of experience and maybe some really good gear, as the trap chests have some of the highest tier loot available, for at least for this part of the game.
Yeah, so these 3 trap chests, they can give anything from a tier 5 to 7 item, which the higher the tier, the better, basically. Also, this is entirely new loot for Pushwall, which is kind of a good and a bad. Like, if microKorgs wanted to do this now, he actually knows where probably... He might know all of the trap chests, though we don't know how much Korgs looted, but... Okay, so here's one of them. This is the Black Cat and Lamias. The Lamias are actually... This is actually a slightly tricky encounter because they all counter a physical attack. The Black Cat's like to Bluster, which has a 50% chance to just immediately KO. So these are the Coerls in future Final Fantasy games. And Lamia is like to Charm, which can do some hilariously awful things to your party if she charms the wrong person.
Exactly. Taking out your strongest physical fighter, who then starts hitting your own team. That can end poorly.
Or charming Tella, who then casts Medio on your team.
Oh, that sounds not great, no.
I've seen it.
Oof, that's got hurt.
I've also seen Palom cast Quake on your team. That's also not great.
Yeah, those are things you don't want to see, and Pushwall gets through without having to encounter any of those, and so he'll get a good chunk of experience and a power shirt.
Power shirt. Yeah, that's great. That's the best piece of armor a melee character can wear, plus 15 strength, which is a lot. Worth probably a couple attack multipliers on its own, which just means he'll be dealing more damage.
Yeah, and definitely much better defensive properties too than the iron armor he just had on. Beginner, like starter armor there for Kane. So a lot of power basically coming from that power shirt.
Yeah, the power shirt is so good. I forget about this when I play vanilla. I've been playing the Pixel Remaster version of this game lately, and the power shirt is not available normally. You have to kill behemoths, I think, and it's a pretty rare drop from them. That's how good that piece of armor is.
Yeah, it definitely should be in the normal game waiting till the very end of the game. You don't want to be giving that out early. Pushwall coming out, exiting here, and seems like the one power shirt was enough. So a bit chunk of experience, a decent item, and he's ready now to go down into the hook route. There are 2 more trap chests on the way to this boss, so maybe he's thinking of picking up some experience that way, or maybe he's feeling like he's ready to take the spot on now.
Yeah, very smart for him to go get experience. Goes in the item shop.
Goes back.
Waffling a bit, going back. I didn't notice if he went in the shop before. If he did, he'll know that if this has Leviathan or not. So Leviathan is the second best. Oh,
not only does it have Leviathan, it has 2 Leviathans. And he did peek this shop, so he knew it was there. So very well what that exit out and doing a trap chest could have been was, let's get some experience on Rydia, who comes in at level 1. So she actually has enough MP to cast Leviathan, which is going to be a lot of damage for this upcoming boss fight.
So the important question is, top Leviathan or bottom Leviathan?
I'll buy half of each. That seems like the fairest thing to do.
Speaking of the trap chest here, microKorgs finding the 2 Stalemen. These are jerks. They like to put you to sleep every single time they punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you are put to sleep, you can unfortunately just be stuck in being asleep for the rest of the fight. So even if they're really only punching you for small points of damage, if that's your only character left, you could just be locked out and end up losing the fight anyway. Luckily, though, we do still have that Ogre Axe, it looks like, on Spear, so he is dishing out really good damage to these Stalemen.
But see, Rosa got put to sleep. Like, it just takes 2 more people getting put to sleep or getting punched down for more life than they have. These are always more difficult than I expect them to be. But microKorgs gets through it, and his stream just, like, picked up at the wrong moment, and I missed the item.
So we'll have to see if he enters his equip screen at some point and puts something on. We might be able to pinpoint it that way. Now, if he was also hoping to, say, get experience on Rydia, fortunately, Rydia was down for that, so it's still at level 1. And I can't tell from the inventory screen what he might have picked up.
Yeah, I suspect it's not anything of major import. He might have, going in his inventory, might have equipped that right away. But Pushwall is going to look at who this King-Queen boss spot is. Normally this is a scripted fight where like, the boss that's normally here just doesn't really do anything, but instead we find Dr. Luge, which is fine. Pretty happy to see this here, actually.
Yeah, definitely. It's not too hard of a fight to get through here. The HP being split across multiple bodies here should make it able to get through pretty quickly. Rydia could be casting Leviathan to wipe out this first phase across 2 bodies, although I'm not sure, it doesn't look like Pushwall, say, used a tent, so she probably still doesn't have the MP for it, so we'll just have to see the rest of the party take this on. But shouldn't be too challenging for him.
Yeah, the most important thing about this encounter is that, like a number of spots in this game, before you randomized the bosses that showed up there, their stats didn't matter. So the devs gave this spot maximum attack power for, I don't know, reasons. Because they could, I guess, because the spot normally doesn't punch. But when you randomize a boss here that punches, oh, do they punch very, very hard. But Dr. Luge doesn't really punch. He'll go through this script of, it's like he's on his second phase. He'll poison and then beam, laser, emission. Like, none of these things are punching, so very fortuitous seeing this here.
Yeah, definitely, because you're right. This spot can punch very hard, so if you're unlucky and get a very punchy boss in this spot, it's both quite fast, especially for compared to anything else we had to face up to this point, and it will be punching very hard. So it can end up being quite rude, even though it has far less HP than the spot that's coming after.
Yeah. And speaking of the 2 trap chests down the hook route that you were referring to earlier, microKorgs was interested in both. Finding the Mad Ogres, they're now mini Mad Ogres, and that's another Satyr Kane that punched with an Ogre Axe and just murdered one in one shot. So this is a very good counter for him to take for experience.
Yeah, definitely. So much less scary once they're small Mad Ogres, taking extra damage and not punching hard at all. So if he is interested in getting Rydia that XP to, say, take advantage of Leviathan casts, he definitely has that option now. Or he might very well want to be leaving that Rydia down as potentially a endgame character. So instead, getting her ready for the Slingshot, being able to, if you are 5 levels below the median level of your party, you gain double experience. So by keeping Rydia at a very low level, he might be saving that to do a Slingshot at the end of the game, getting her to a very high level quickly.
Yeah, that's very important in this situation, because normally, like, if you take on 10 battles, the Slingshot experience, you know, might kick in for the first 5 and then Rydia catches up. But when you're doing this D-Machine grind that we've talked about before, the D-Machine, it's one fight that you go through where you summon as many dragons as you need to get to endgame levels. So in one fight, Rydia gets double experience, which is very important for her because she has the most aggressively awful experience curve in the game. She needs a full 1 million experience, which is a lot, to get to her endgame spell nuke, which is something you definitely want her to have if you can. So it really helps out if you only have to give her half of that experience. Yep. Effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And so microKorgs does leave Rydia down, so it looks like that might be what he has planned, where Pushwall wants to have the power of Rydia being able to cast Leviathan available for this fight. So we'll see if this ends up making the karate fight a lot harder for microKorgs or not.
Yeah, and speaking of Pushwall's in the karate fight now, we see the slows coming out. This is very important. Mm-hmm. One of the ways that I've seen this hook rot boss get out of hand that has an area of effect attack is that it's so fast that it gets to do that AoE attack way more times than you expect. But first of all, Karate's not really doing a lot of damage here, and also with him being slowed, and if we can get a couple Berserkers going, it'll just really help our white mages be able to keep up with the damage that Karate's putting out. But with the blinks up and the slows, we see the kick's not doing a lot of damage. I don't think Pushwall is going to have any troubles here.
Yep, looks like he has gotten to a safe part of this fight. Enough of his party is blinked, so the the normal attacks the Karate is doing are just missing his party, and he has enough healing to just recover from the kicks. Rydia, unfortunately, did get knocked down, and with kick, it is actually kind of hard to pick up a character, as they'll likely just get kicked back down before you can life them, so he won't actually get to take advantage of that Leviathan for some extra damage. But we still see good DPS coming out from basically his Berserk fighters here, that he should be able to get through it.
Yeah, which is, on the one hand, it's kind of a shame, but on the other hand, especially if Darkness doesn't show up for quite a bit of time, I mean, that Rydia could still stay down for Pushwall.
Oh, yeah.
And be 5 levels under the rest of the party and still get that Slingshot. The one consideration there is Tella, I would say. Tella has a pretty awful experience curve himself, so trying to keep 5 levels under him can quickly become a challenge.
And yeah, I think a lot of that might matter also just on how deep that Darkness Crystal does end up being. It could be something we find very quickly while we're underground. We do have some free checks that become available to us quickly, but it could also be at the end of some long chain that we have to go through a lot of underground locations and then unlock some more overworld locations and go through those before we finally get to it.
Looks like Korgs is having just a little bit of trouble with Dr. Luge. One of the things that can happen in this fight, and I think it's going to be okay, one of Luge's attacks is the laser. It does damage based on his current hit points. Just the way his script plays out, if he ends up lasering somebody down and they die, and then you try to pick them up, the attack after that is an AoE emission, which, sort of like the kick, it makes picking party members up difficult because then they just die to emission right away. Like we see Kane die to that laser. Yeah. And then the spot is so fast that it just cycles through this repeatedly, and you get caught in this loop where you can't deal enough damage. That's when the Dr. Luge fight becomes very dangerous. And he also counters every time he gets damaged with this gas, which is a sleep spell, essentially.
Yeah, all that combination, really depending on just who ends up getting targeted by those various things, can make the fight get challenging. But microKorgs does make it through. So safely through that. So we'll see if he then takes the safety save here, as he doesn't want to have to do that fight again, or if he's feeling confident, it just walks into this next fight.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't bring that up with Pushwall because he was able to get through that pretty quickly, and that spot doesn't really have a lot of health. I think it's around 6,000, so usually the laser from Luge isn't really that dangerous. But Luge is one of those bosses that's like, you don't expect it to start destroying you, and then suddenly he does, and it's like, oh god, what's happening?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think a lot of the times you're usually like, oh, I can get through this fight quickly, but you're right. Just say unlucky gas after your first attack onto the wrong party member, followed up by the wrong person being knocked down, can just make the fight start spiraling out of control, and it can be hard to recover. Pushwall does get through Karate.
Yep.
And this first one underground here at 47 minutes.
Pushwall building up that lead bit by bit through just small pieces of efficiency. When we were at the Twin Harp, Pushwall opted to use the weak spell, where microKorgs opted to use the mute spell to deal with the guards. Pushwall got through that fight faster than microKorgs, and I'd say, like, bit by bit, that's been the difference between these two runners, and it's not much.
Yeah, definitely. There's just small looting differences at the start. Definitely made Pushwall get a little bit ahead, and then just handling each of these boss fights in slightly different ways have been creating. There's definitely points where microKorgs looked like he was catching up to Pushwall, and now Pushwall kind of increasing here. I'd say his lead on going through these fights on the hook route just a little faster. Although we'll have to see how well microKorgs can get through this karate fight. Pushwall did go ahead and peek the top of tower boss, and we see Odin hanging out up there. Might not want to take that on too quickly. There's a lot of HP there, and then Odin could hit you back, but we also have some easier item checks. We'll Pushwall wants potentially do those first, especially this freebie here in the Fey March.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Pushwall immediately does this freebie in the Fey March and then does Sheila 1, where you go down the Sylph Cave, talk to the Sleeping Gang, and then go to Sheila, where she would normally give you a pan to beat her husband upside the head with to wake him up, which, wow, I've always thought that was a lot, but okay.
She knows what works. The alarm clock's not enough. Yeah.
Yep. But those are two free key items, and you just want the Darkness Crystal.
Exactly. Knowing that you just need the Darkness Crystal to enter that go mode means, yeah, the items you can get the fastest do look really appealing to you. And being able to do checks that aren't behind any boss, because even boss spots that are relatively easy for your party at this point, you just run into bosses who are just slow wherever you find them. And so being able to get key item checks kind of as fast as you can is what you'd like to be able to do.
And Pushwall getting the Rat Tail, not even interested at the moment to set up Sheila 1. Something he could do is run down Sylph, set that up, and then run out and check both. You'd check Sheila 1 first, just in case she gives you the pink tail, and then you check this Rat Tail. But instead, opting to just go immediately, got to swap airships so we can pick up the hovercraft, run over to the cave that we need to, and then turn in this Rat Tail, which normally you'd get the adamant from, but this is a randomizer. Could be anything.
Despite the fact Rat Tail itself was vanilla, it might not give its vanilla reward here.
My favorite is when this gives the pink tail.
Yeah, and it's like, oh wait, I want that. Just give it back to me right now, and I'll give you something for it.
Oh, wow, that is darkness. Pushwall with the prescience of, you know what? No, I'm just checking this Rat Tail immediately. Gets his go mode in that Darkness Crystal.
I think it's because, as you were saying, there is just the one key item we want, which is the Darkness Crystal. So Pushwall was just interested in getting checks that he could get done as fast as possible. So when he saw that Rat Tail, like, well, that's a pretty fast check. Let's just get that one done right now, because if I get the Darkness, I'm done having to look at random key item locations. I know what I need to do now.
And that play I was talking about of going down Sylph and then checking Sheila 1 first, that's a good, minute and a half or something like that, that Pushwall just said, no, I need to go fast. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. If the Rat Tail didn't get the Darkness, he would have had some extra flight time in there, so it definitely is a little bit of a trade-off. I could see our runners going either of those choices, but yeah, definitely paying off for Pushwall in this case, and looks like now he wants to get some shopping done. He did look around beforehand, so he knows where things are, such as ethers, which almost certainly indicates he's getting ready here to do his Steam Machine grind.
Yeah, and we don't have 10 key items. This has got to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 key items. in this randomizer, when you have 10 of them, you get double experience. This is important because we're about to go kill a bunch of machine dragons, and without 10 key items, and we are in go mode, so we need end game levels. Pushwall's going to need to kill a lot of dragons, and to kill a lot of dragons, you're going to need a lot of MP because weak costs 25 MP and Tella has 90, and you're casting 1 week per dragon. I did see the 9 ethers in his inventory, the 9 ether ones. I don't know what he just picked up past that, but yeah, Kaipo kind of had everything he wanted. It had that cursed ring too, which will help. It'll slow Kane down. Agility is black magic. It will just make it'll make the D machine grind a lot more efficient for Pushwall.
Yeah, especially he wants to be able to get his turns around to Tella's turn quickly, as he'll be the one who's able to cast the weak spell to make able to get through the D machine, who have a big pile of HP much faster, and be able to knock down those as fast as possible. It's good first experience. I did see his Rydia as level 16. I wasn't able to see everyone else's levels, but given where everyone else starts and the fact they all got the experience from finishing the hook route boss, probably that does mean Rydia is set up for being slingshot.
That could be a big sticking point, actually. Tella at this level is going to have around 20, 21. Oh no, he was 26. He's fine. Yeah.
So, did see everyone, but I think Pushwall does have the slingshot available on Rydia, which is the character you want to have it on, both for, as you were noting, her really bad XP curve makes being able to get double on hers nice, and mages being able to get a lot of experience on them is useful, since that gets them to their high power spells like Nuke, which can make getting through the moon boss location so much easier.
Oh yeah, and especially with not having 10 key items, Rydia needs, I want to say something like 24 D machines killed without like bonus experience or slingshot.
Yep, it takes a lot. So let's see, is it 24 indeed to get to Nuke for her? So yeah, being able to cut that number in half is excellent, as it cuts your time for doing the grind in half.
Now I do expect him to do probably more than that, because you want Rosa to have white as well as an option he can go with. But Pushwall, remembering that Paladin is behind that package, wants to pick up that second black mage.
Yeah, and so he will come in at a low enough level to also be able to get the slingshot. So this means he'll be able to get 2 black mages to have Nuke, which is a huge power spike for him, and potentially means Rosa learning the white spell could be nice, but with 2 Nuke casters, maybe he's feeling like that will be enough power and he'll be able to stop there and not have to do quite as many D machines.
Yeah, definitely. And then this sets up what we call reflect strats on Zerumas, meaning normally in this game, the hit points, how to put this efficiently, bosses can only have 65,000 health. They can't have more than that because of SNES limitations. Yeah, so if you want a boss to have more than 65,000 health, they have a script where they will refill their hit points. And Zerumas, the final boss, has this script. But if you reflect damage onto enemies so you don't get into like an infinite recursive loop kind of nonsense, reflected damage doesn't trigger a script. So if you reflect spell damage onto Zerumas, you only have to deal half the health you normally would have to deal in order to kill him. So it makes it for a faster kill with that kind of party. And that's definitely the strategy we're going to go for here.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that's what Pushwall is interested in setting up, because it does take a fair amount of time to go through this package check. So he really has to value having this extra mage, and likely it's to set up those reflect strategies.
Yeah, his other option... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just saying, microKorgs does seem interested in checking out the Sheila 1 check, so doing Sylph Cave first after picking up his rat tail. And it's because we were talking about both of these options make a ton of sense. You do need that one item. You could lower your flying around time by doing the routing like this. Although we know from Pushwall's side, you could get to your Darkness Crystal ever so slightly faster by just going straight to it.
Also, hi Payman. Bye Payman.
Good call it from chat here, though, which is if Sheila 1 happens to have the Adamant, that actually could be a big time save, because that is another objective done, and we only have to do 4 out of 5, so it saves you doing one of those moon boss locations.
It doesn't just save you doing the moon boss location, it would give microKorgs either the Abel's Lance, the Gigant Axe, or the piggy stick, which are all incredible endgame weapons. It would enable Korgs to not need to pick up that Palom and lean on Kane to deal most of the damage at Zemus instead.
Yeah, so yeah, it will definitely be a really big deal if admin happens to be here. microKorgs doing the exact routing you mentioned, which is drop off the hovercraft there, but let's visit Sheila 1 just in case she's holding onto the pink tail, so we can do a double tail turn in at the same time. Pushwall here does finish picking up his extra Black Mage, and yep, chooses to go to the Giant, not back to the Moon, so yep, definitely wanting to do this Steam Machine grind. And what do we get?
It's the Baron key, which womp womp.
Yeah, I imagine microKorgs will check this, find his darkness, and become not terribly interested in following up on that Baron key.
Yeah, in fact, you have a moment where you go like, ah, oh, crap.
Yeah. And it is an extra key item, but unfortunately we got through relatively small number of checks at this point, so it's not enough to even push us to that 10 key item threshold to get double experience. And we're still not all that close either. Yeah.
Yeah, and Baron is a notoriously slow check. You've got 2 bosses to go through. You have a very long cutscene at the end. At the end of it.
Yeah, so not too likely to see that be followed up on, and instead microKorgs will try to decide how he would like to set up his grind and get to it. So does he want to check more characters to add to his party first, or is he happy with the current party setup he has and go straight for his Steam Machine grind?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess he checks the Moon, and then if he remembers the package, I think he's gonna just follow directly behind Pushwall's footsteps here.
Yeah, I think definitely.
So now,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Korgs is behind, but this is not over yet. This is gonna come down now between these 2 runners to their efficiency, I would say. How fast do they find the D-Machine encounter? This is a manipulation. You're not just randomly stumbling on it. You're looking at a chart and counting steps, or kind of watching where you get encounters to know essentially how to get this specific counter that you get. So how fast you get that, and then once you're in that fight, how efficiently you get through it, and then how efficiently you get through the Moon bosses. You really could lose, and the final boss, Zemus. Like, you could gain or lose minutes just through those checks. So this is not over yet.
Yeah, definitely not. And as you're saying, there's a fair bit to do inside the D-Machine grind, and if you say are trying to go very fast, there is chances too to drop the fight if things go poorly. You miss on your weak cast, hit that D-Machine, let it counterattack you. Things can start spiraling out of control quite quickly. So there's also always just a chance of losing control of that D-Machine grind, and depending on how deep you are into that, can lose you a lot of time.
And I've seen it before. We've seen it recently, I will say. No spoilers, but I've seen very recently a D-Machine grind go very wrong. I know in our community lately, we've kind of liked to frown our nose at this grind sometimes, just because it can get kind of tedious. But there's a challenge to executing it well, and I do think that is actually really rather interesting.
Yeah, especially because I think a lot of the challenge comes from you want to do it as fast as you can, especially as you're like, I've already been in this for 4 or 5 minutes. I want to get to the end of this as fast as I can. And when you start to try to rush and maybe be a little riskier there, being like, oh, I'll get my cure in on the next loop, because the attack that is being done is % damage, so you know exactly how much it's going to do. But yeah, maybe just trying to push off your healing for a bit longer can put you on that risk of disaster and drop it there. So it can happen to anyone at any point in time.
Yeah, definitely. And to explain briefly what is going on here, we found this encounter. This searcher, every time it's damaged, by itself, it will summon a D-Machine, which is Machine Dragon. All the Machine Dragon will do is cast Fire, which is a hit point based AoE attack. It will do nothing else. We cast Weak on it, which puts it to single-digit hit points, and then bop it with anybody, and then it dies. Very important, Weak is on that D-Machine first, because if it gets hit before the Weak spell comes out, it will counter with a punch, and the punch will kill at this point, whoever it hits.
Exactly. So you definitely need to get that weak spell out. It also needs to hit, as Chad is noting. With Tella in the middle, is there a chance of weak missing? Not really. I think you need only 10 wisdom to not miss at all once Tella's in the middle slot. So just don't have a ton of... Don't put a curse string on him and put him in the middle slot, and you should be fine. But a lot of the time, it's more likely is instead you get your attack out before the weak spell happens to finish its casting, as it does have a cast time, and that's how you can end up basically triggering that counterattack.
Yeah, this game, the way just something about the way the queuing works. Once in a while, characters will kind of jump their turn when they really shouldn't be, and that's what ends up happening. Where like you queue up an attack while the flame is going off, and normally Tella queued up that week first, so it should happen before the attack comes out, but for reasons that are really not your own fault, a character could jump a turn and then attack first. This has ruined a number of vanilla speedrunners' runs.
Okay. As well as you can also say maybe just lose track of your MP, so you go ahead and summon up that dragon, and then Tella's turn comes up and you realize he has no MP and you cannot cast the weak spell, and now you're eating more fire attacks than you expected to, and that can get the fight out of control that way. So
I do that basically all the time. And every time I do it, it's like, oh god, okay. Throw cure potions or cure with literally everybody that I can, and then get back to Tella.
Just get everyone alive, get that one ether out. Yeah, I'm a big fan of using the ether 2s instead of the ether 1s. So I'm just like, he's halfway down, I'll just top off his MP right now. Let's not get into that situation. A little slower as you're throwing more items out, but definitely can be a little safer. There's also just a chance of your get into the rhythm of going, okay, here's who's, Tella's turn is up next at this point, so go ahead and attack and summon out and get his turn. And you're kind of noting sometimes just things happen and people jump ahead in the turn order. So suddenly it's not Tella and you maybe input your command wrong there, or now you just have to pass and get to Tella and you eat more fire attacks than you were expecting. So yeah, sometimes it's just that combat, or whoever's turn comes up coming out of order can catch you off guard and throw a wrench into the grind.
Yeah, other things that can kind of go wrong. You could accidentally weak the Searcher,
Yep.
and then the next time you would bop it, it would just die. And if in this situation Kain or Palom is dead, he just wouldn't even get the experience. That would be bad. You'd also ruin your slingshot. If you end up doing that in your own fight, you can cure for the Searcher and just get it back up to full health. You could also just end up dealing too much damage to it. This already is doing 250 a swing, which is really probably not enough to kill it, but I mean, the Searcher doesn't have infinite health. It can die.
Yeah, definitely. So it can be interesting if you're not keeping track exactly of your damage. Doing a few 100 points to them, and depending on how many, if say you had no slingshot, no 10 key items, Searchers have 5,500 HP. You can get through all of that HP before you finish grinding 24 natural D machines. So definitely something you need to keep track of.
Yeah. It's also easy to just lose count. You're like, how many?
Oh, yes.
How many have I done?
I think this is enough. Let's exit, and Rydia is level 48. Oh, damn.
You're like, Or better, but kind of more insulting, Rydia's like level 60. You're like, where did I go wrong? She's only supposed to be 50.
I missed the 5 D machines I did in the middle of this fight. By mistake. Definitely, though, you'll feel confident about taking on the rest of the seed with those levels.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, we did go through, we were kind of noting a lot of the easier bosses did already come out of the pool, and we are looking at having to finish both Cave Bahamut and the Crystal Sword Altar, so 2 high, boon boss locations, which are relatively harder spots. So some of those meaner bosses that we haven't seen yet do show up there. Having extra levels could actually be really nice to get through those, even though you might feel comfortable for Zeromus, knowing how you do that with the reflex strats. Maybe having levels not on, as many levels not on your fighters could be a problem running into certain bosses.
Yeah, definitely. This is still an RPG, right? Like there's strong value in just having levels.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to appreciate the symmetry going on here. This is my favorite. If we're gonna do the dueling D machine grind, back to back.
Back to back Searchers there. Yeah, I actually really like it. Does have a nice look to it.
Perfect symmetry.
Almost same party positions too, just a swap there with Riddy and Kane. Looks good.
Yet another thing I can point out. Apparently, I just really like talking about
the symmetry.
Grind. Oh, and we see Pushwall picking up party members. He might be done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's weakening the Searcher now. We'll pick up our party members. Don't need to pick up Kane because he will get experience as the hero. Mm-hmm. That's one of the challenges because you can't keep Kane low level to make his agility lower to make the seed easier. Gets his 500,000 experience, so Rydia will get the slingshot, get the full 1,000,000. So Rydia and Palom are both going to have nuke. I don't think Rosa will have white, but she's not really going to need it.
Still get some very good spells there. The Cure 4 and Life 2 are both going to be very useful for getting through other fights. And yeah, just leave it to your Black Mages there, Rydia and Palom, to do your damage with their nuke casts.
Yeah, and the last thing I was just going to point out is that something kind of interesting about this flag set specifically, we have the life glitch off, which normally the life glitch is you throw a life potion or spell at a dying enemy and they get revived but then die immediately because this game. You just get credit for killing 2 at once. But you don't have it in this flag set, it's off. And what that... It does make your D-Machine grinder longer, but it has this interesting consequence where normally you want a lot of party members up in that fight because you need to be able to weak and attack and throw a life potion and heal up your party and use ethers. And when you don't have to life as part of that loop, you can have less party members up and kind of have a more guaranteed sequence of things happening and less party members you have to cycle through in order to get to the weak spell in order to cast it. And so I like that Pushwall only had the 3 party members up. I think that helped just like a very, very little minor optimization get through that a little bit faster for him.
And definitely, and with how strong both of these runners are, everywhere you can do those little micro optimizations is very important. So
sometimes you get through these and you get through these races and you realize how close they were and you start questioning literally everything.
Did I really have to loot the left tower in Castle Eblin? I'd already found these items. Yeah, definitely can come up because again, everyone in this tournament, especially all those who have made it to this deep into it, are just extremely good. So everywhere you can shave 30 seconds, a minute can really end up mattering.
Yeah, I had the last tournament, the round that I got knocked out, I lost to a tie. Well, okay, it was a tie and then it got retimed and then it turned out to be like within 5 seconds, which is not a tie. And the difference, I mean, there are a lot of differences in a race that that kind of change the time, of course, right? But the one that I noticed the most, that was just on my mind the most, was on my way to Zeromus, like right before doing that cutscene, I went into my inventory and I looked at Kane, I think I looked at his agility, and then backed out and then went to Zeromus. I mean, that was 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
2 or 3 seconds. And that lost me the race, basically, by itself.
Yeah, exactly. And one of those things where you're like, I have 2 seconds to just make sure my agility is where I need it to be, because otherwise I will lose this fight. But again, when you're playing just against such other good racers, yeah, you just have to keep going as fast as you can everywhere to pull off those advantages.
And there's a strong tension there between making sure you're safe and making sure you're going fast. It's very easy to go too fast and kind of get screwed up by doing that.
Yeah, especially going too fast and dropping a fight. That you said that took you 2 seconds. Losing a Zeromus fight can cost easily minutes, depending on how deep you got into it, and especially if you're doing the pass versus the longer walk.
Yeah, exactly. That's an easy 5-minute loss or more. Something I really like that Pushwall's doing, I want to point out. So we have 2 objectives left. We have the Cave Value, which is available on the moon, not in this Crystal Palace, or the Lunar Subterrane, and the Crystal Sword Altar. By going to the Crystal Sword Altar first, we have a pass, so going deep into the Lunar Subterrane doesn't matter because we can just leave and go to Troyer and get to the final boss that way. If the Crystal Sword Altar has the Adamant, then Pushwall won't have to do Cave Bahamut at all. He'll just be able to forge, which will take about the same amount of time, but you get a much stronger piece of gear out of it. And might not have to deal with something like an Ashura or someone who might be really rude at Cave Value. So I really like this play of going to the Crystal Sword Altar first.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a really good heads-up play there by Pushwall, recognizing, hey, I do have a potential out to make this faster and or safer. Let's go ahead and do it and see if it pays off. And if it doesn't, it's fine. I can just go ahead and do the Cave Bahamut route and still get to the end. So, very nice.
Yeah, because he'll be able to defeat that boss and then exit out and then go to cave value and then go turn in the pass. So it won't be a time loss doing it this way.
Yeah. Chat mentioning Adamant being in cave value. Well, possible in other flag sets, not in this one. We do not have key summons on, which means summon locations are not giving out key items. So we will not be able to see that coming from cave value. Also, while we were not interested in, say, looking at the Fey March for any bosses and taking on those spots as well.
Yeah, so normally in our tournament flags, we have 3 flags turned on. They're called K-Main, K-Summon, and K-Moon. These just say where the key items can show up. K-Main always has to be on. So these are, everything on the blue planet. But with K-Moon on, it means that a moon spot like this could reward a key item. With it off, it never will. With K-Summon off, that means the 2 Fey March bosses in the underground, the Sylph turn-in, which is hitting Yang with the pan, and Cave Bahamut, and then the Odin Throne at Baron. Those are all summon spots. With the K-Summon flag off, none of them can reward a key item. They'll probably reward a pretty good piece of loot, but no key item to be found by them.
Yep, definitely. Mylon and Friends being our fight here at the Crystal's altar. Not too bad of a fight here to take on, being able to kill out all of the added-on zombies, so we don't have to watch through all their drain animations, and just throwing damage here at Mylon, who will just be countering Lightning 1, which is not all that scary. Gets Pushwall through the fight quite quickly.
And Rydia taking 1 damage from a punch from one of the hardest punching spots in the game. Imagine she's wearing maybe like a Sork robe that has undead resistance. Actually, is he even undead? Alright, well, we don't get the adamant, we get a samurai bow, which at this point in the game don't really care about it, but you get the objective done.
Yep, exactly. I think it's just saying Pushwall is just playing to that % chance of this might be the adamant.
Yep.
So let's just check it, and if it's not, it's really not a big deal. It just means we take on Cave Bahamut now. Which is almost certainly what Pushwall is flying over to right now, as microKorgs does continue to go through his D-Machine fight here. I'm not sure how deep he is into it, although he has been in for a couple minutes, so likely won't have to see too many go down until he also is almost certainly getting his Rydia to nuke levels.
Notably, though, microKorgs did not pick up that Palom, so is going to have to go with either getting Rosa to white, which is more machine dragons than Pushwall had to kill, because Rosa won't benefit from a slingshot. We've had her in our party for too long. Or we'll have to go with a hybrid strategy where you rely on either just Berserking, Kane, and Sid, or you're doing that and also leaning on the nuke spell. Bahamut, this is vanilla. Also, probably one of the easiest bosses you can find here.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is funny.
So definitely, we were talking about if you find a really rude boss here, it might slow you down. This one is not very scary. You go ahead, throw out some of your own damage, put up some wall casts, which means the mega nuke that comes out here will just be reflected right back at Bahamut. Your party will stay alive. Whoever has the walls on will stay alive and get some extra damage in. So yeah, both relatively fast and relatively safe. Yeah,
the only way this fight goes, he counts from 5 to 1 and then casts Mega Nuke and then repeats. So basically, when you find him, he's like, okay, I'm charging up my laser. Charging up my laser. Charging, fire! That's it, that's the fight.
Mm-hmm. Which, if we don't have walls, can be a very, very hard challenge to dish out enough damage here before he fires off that Mega Nuke.
Very much so. And speaking of, Bahamut didn't die, so it's going to have to die from this reflected Mega Nuke. So important that we had some walls up.
Yeah.
Because that will just kill your party.
It does a ton of damage, as we saw the characters who didn't have the wall up. All right, and getting more the Crystal Sword, an amazing piece of equipment for a character we don't have, but also importantly, being our 4th objective, so awarding us the Crystal Item, which is what is necessary to take on Zeromus here.
I love getting the Crystal Sword reward when you don't have a Cecil in your party.
I mean, that's the only time you get the Crystal Sword reward, right? It's like,
Right.
oh, good, guaranteed Cecil not in this seed because we found a Crystal Sword.
If you happen to not be familiar, the Crystal Sword is not just the best weapon in this game. Aside from the GBA weapons, which are kind of often at that power level, but the Crystal Sword is not just the most powerful weapon in the game, it's the most powerful weapon in the game by like a factor of 2. It does 2 to 3 times as much damage as anybody else could do. Like, it is very strong, but only Cecil can wear it. He's not in the party, so as far as we're concerned, it's just a shiny carrot.
So, Pushwall, go ahead and flying right on over to Troy here, turning his pass will get him to the Zeroma Spite, and we'll have to see how it takes that on. So, especially lowering there that battle speed, and again, the leveling he did is very strong signals of seeing reflect strategy coming out here.
Yeah, chat talking about the Lightbringer and the Abel's Lance. I'd also name the Fiery Hammer. These are all GBA weapons. In the GBA game, there is a bonus dungeon that when you get through them rewards you with these Crystal Sword power level weapons for different party members. And those are a few of them. They're also very, very strong.
Definitely. So I did see the curse ring coming off of Kane here. I'm not sure of his exact agility level, but setting up, he's okay with a bit of a faster character here. We'll
yeah, without again going into agility, because it's just black magic. The speed of Kane in this seed is going to determine the speed of everybody else. Essentially, they're all banded around his agility stat, and the faster, slower he is kind of changes things. And against Zeroma specifically, there are breakpoint numbers. They're 28, 42, etc. in multiples of 14. They change the fight in a way that's very helpful for Pushwall. So that's why he's like fussing with his agility, especially on Kane particularly. But in the meanwhile, I see these Z flags.
Oh, that's interesting. Nap time, right? That's what those are for?
It's always nap time, right?
It's always nap time. I love that one. I love nap time.
We don't ever do this every single time we see it.
Every time this. No, that's the only thing I can think of though. Okay, if it's not nap time, what are these Z flags for?
These are for Zeromus. This is our final boss. We don't randomize where he is because randomizing his location would be very rude. You don't want to take a big bang at the Baronin. But we do randomize who Zeromus is. There are over 500 sprites. I think the last count I read was like 536, something like that. So there's a large variety of things that Zeromus can turn into after using the crystal on him.
So that leads to our really important question, which is, would you like to do the honors?
To steal the words from someone else, whose booty are we going to scooty?
I haven't heard that one. I love it.
Or, whose butt are we kicking tonight?
Yeah. Oh, I like this one.
Oh, what is this? It's named Moonimus. I don't recognize it.
I can't actually recall where it's from, but I've seen these characters around, and they're fun. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, that's it.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force, nice. I love it.
Thank you, chat. You always have my back. So we see new casts immediately being reflected here from Pushwall's side, so yeah, definitely going for his reflect strategies, it seems.
And that's a shake already. Okay, so the way this needs to play out, you want to get out your damage as fast as possible. Zeromus is going to shake and then cast a Big Bang, which is an AoE attack. It's basically a hit point check. Because of weird script shenanigans, if you if you target Zeromus with a spell and then he responds with a nuke, he'll lower his spell power, which we call this nerfing the Big Bang. Because he lowers his spell power to cast nuke, he'll then also use that lowered spell power to cast his Big Bang, so it'll deal less damage like we see here. With this Reflect party, it's very important to get damage going immediately because after that first Big Bang, Zeromus will get ready to cast Big Bang again, and nuking the second time gets more difficult. And then also, he'll start casting something called Black Hole, which will remove all status effects, which will knock down these Star Veils. to really start slowing the fight down. So we really want to be able to deal enough damage quickly enough to kill Zemus before that happens, or the worst case scenario, get off a couple reflected nukes maybe after the first black hole. Having to deal with more than that becomes really tricky. So we'll see kind of what happens here for Pushwall. A lot of damage is coming out.
We actually do see a second slow cast coming here from Pushwall, this one being reflected. And so having 2 full slow casts being done on him will lower down his speed as much as possible to keep basically him throwing out a few fewer commands or that much longer until we get to this unnerved Big Bang, just to keep things a little safer, as well as if it does go off and you need to recover, it buys you extra time to recover in that.
Yep.
But we see good damage coming out. Nuke is great spell for being able to do the reflect strats, both due to its really high damage and its really low cast time. Makes it just a really nice setup for this.
And we see Kane throwing out a Cure 2 onto Rosa, who has the wall up. That tells me he is nervous about another Big Bang coming out, wanting to be a little bit safe here. Yeah, actually that Big Bang is coming. Happen. This could wipe the entire party except Kane. This is going to deal upwards of 2,000 or more damage.
Yeah, it definitely can do a lot of damage, like over 2,000, and your mages tend to have much lower HP pools than, say, your fighters like Kane. But the nice thing is their high magic stats does also result in them having very high magic evade, so they can end up seeing lower rolls, taking less damage. So just already only took 1,000 there. But it is evasion. It's a chance. They can end up missing all their evade rolls and still take that full 2,000, 2,400. And so you can see wipes just come out of nowhere on these parties.
Yeah, so with the good gear and a little bit of luck, the important party members get through it. Tella was never surviving that.
Yeah.
We're getting more nukes out, and I think we're going to get this boss down before the next Big Bang.
Yeah, as well as probably. That black hole. It is important to note, you don't want to queue up some nukes only to have your Star Veil come down, and then you just nuke your own party. That can also get the fight out of control. Also, the Star Veil coming down gives you a chance to say cure for your entire party, including the previously walled target, to get everyone's HP back to safe levels.
Zemus is shaking again. Now, Kane can almost never die from a Big Bang, so he's almost always going to be able to save the fight, but
yeah,
it does bring up a little bit of nerves.
Yeah, if we do see another one, yeah, we could see a lot of the party members go down, but right, Kane will be all right. He can pick someone up, and if Pushwall's counting his damage, he might know if he's safe enough to just pick up one of his mages and direct cast a nuke to end the fight. So while we're trying to reflect all of our damage, if you do know you can kill him with the next blow, you don't have to worry about seeing the
There comes another Big Bang.
What is happening?
All right, Rosa survives it, able to get off a Cure 4, but only Rosa and Kane are up now. Kane has to pick up a Black Mage, get up another wall, and get damage out quickly. I think this is the phase where we have Virus before the Black Hole. So good. Very important that Rosa survived that, because Virus would kill otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to cure everyone up before that Virus has come out, very helpful and very safe, because we saw Kane didn't get a turn there, so it would have been hard to, say, get a Cure 3 popped out in time. Another Cure 4 here, and queuing up that Star Veil. So I believe he believes the Black Hole will happen first here, and then can just start reflecting nukes again.
Yeah, this is where this can really run away from you. And okay, Kane must have a Star Veil queued up. I think I missed that. Okay, yeah. So Star Veil's going to go up, nuke is going to go back off. Radiant's down though, so we've only got the one nuker left. But Zemus is got to be very, very close to dead at this point.
Yeah, and did pick up Paladin, who was throwing out the more powerful Big Bang, or more powerful nukes there, doing 7,000 to 8,000 points of damage. And we see a shake. That's a GG there for Pushwall.
There we go. GG's to Pushwall, our winner for this race, tying it back up now to a 1-1 in this best of 3, finishing with an official race bot time of 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 4 seconds. Big GG's to Pushwall. We'll see. That sound in my ear. I believe we've got Pushwall in for an interview now. GG's, Pushwall.
Thank you.
GG's, very well played there through the entirety of that seed. So, to get started, I kind of want to... Was anything going through your mind when you found that Wyvern and Mistcave and then got Antline to give you Twin Harp?
Yes, exactly. Knowing 10 minutes in that as soon as you get Darkness, you're in go mode is never a good feeling.
So did that I guess, kind of influence any of your decision making at that point in time?
Yeah, just keeping Palom in the back of my mind, Rydia on the floor,
Yes.
just to be ready for go mode as soon as it happens.
Definitely, for sure. And then when you did find out it was a hook route, or you saw your hook but still had, say, the twin harp check, what were you kind of thinking through of going through the seed at that point in time?
I wasn't exactly banking on a magma key, I was just... I kind of figured that with 2 sources of blink, most things on the hook route aren't super scary.
For sure. We did see you go ahead and see who was there, Karate, and then your Rydia, and you did back out. I guess, what were you thinking at that point?
That was just... I'm not sure why I didn't just go ahead and take the Ogre's chest. I think I wanted to loot the entirety of Eblin and get more experience, but I figured, okay, I just have 2 blinks, I can do this.
Okay, so it definitely was, you were interested in a little bit of experience, and then once you got some, you're like, all right, with the blinks, we can go ahead and handle this fight. Let's get back in there. Although not too bad to get that power shirt out of the one chest you did end up checking.
Yeah, and also gave you the time to kind of think about how you wanted to take that hook route. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. The one decision I wanted to ask about myself was, so you get underground and you check Feymarch and you get that rat tail and you go check that immediately. Was it on your mind to set up Sheila before that, or kind of what was what was playing on your mind at that point?
Well, yeah, I immediately checked that because I figured microKorgs would do the rational thing and keep checking his freebies, but I also know he has me beat in a foot race, so if I did that too and Sheila 1 led to either the Adamant or the Darkness, then this race would have gone the same way it did last time.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense. I will let you know though, when you watch this back, it'll be, I think, pretty fun for you. In this foot race, you were the one that was ahead pretty much the entire time, not by a lot, but definitely the leader in the foot race here.
Yeah, I talked to him in the spoiler chat and he thinks he was just too slow on the overwhells.
Because
apparently he also did the same check I did.
Yeah, for the most part, overworld checks were fairly similar. I think just mostly the divergence, and you'll see this when you watch back, was on the looting, which yours was a little shorter, and so you just kind of were a little bit ahead for that reason, and just mostly maintained that lead. But yeah, though, as you were basically ignoring those differences there in looting, basically getting through all those spots at kind of the same time and just as quickly as each other, so you're definitely playing at a very high level of play there, just as well at microKorg, so it does look like you can take him on in that straight race.
Yeah, a lot of times in the past I've realised I've fallen victim to overlooting. That's a problem I'm trying to solve.
We all do. I swear.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Loot is so addictive. So definitely then, once you did find that darkness crystal, what was your thought process there?
Just go, go, go.
We did see you stop there for the package.
Yeah, I really was not feeling good about taking on Zemus with just Rydia and Ogre Axe Kane for damage. And I knew Palom was there from checking earlier, so I knew two nukes should make it at least bearable, even with kind of low levels.
Yeah, and that played out very well for you. Your D machine was super efficient, and your 2 nukes got you through the finish line in pretty resoundingly, I would say. So, big GG's to you there. You're now up 1-1 going into a game 3. Anything on your mind for how you'll take on the game 3? Any changes to your strategy? Kind of keep on keeping on?
Yep, just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, that's always my answer too when I get asked that question, by the way.
Yeah, I think in your case,
well done.
Definitely makes a lot of sense. Do watch this one back and just see your plays top tier here. I think just keeping doing what you're doing is a great idea.
Yeah. Any last words for us before we let you go, Pushwall?
How did you all like Black Mage Kane?
It was definitely
No MP required.
Flame Spear. It's pretty darn great early game, huh?
helped you get through definitely the zombie dance party there. All right, for sure. Well, definitely thanks for putting on the show for us. GG's on your win there, and excited to see Game 3.
See you later.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pushwall. GG's again. Bye now. And that was Pushwall, our winner for tonight's race, tying it up to 1-1. So we will move on to a Game 3 between these two runners. Pushwall putting on a very good show, and Korgs also putting on a very good show, just ending up slightly behind Pushwall in this race, but we see him now in the Zemus fight. He has to deal with Zemus a little bit differently here. Doesn't have that Palom, so has to lean on dealing the full amount of damage to Zemus and has to do it with probably a pretty suboptimal team.
Yeah. So yeah, we see Kane there, at least attacking. I'm not sure if he's Berserk. That wasn't terribly high damage, but it's also not the best weapon he has on, so that might still be Berserk damage. You can go ahead and try to still just do reflect strategies where you have Kane supplement your damage until you get close to the refill point and then have him stop attacking, especially if you have Berserked him, or maybe stop the Berserk. Because only swinging for 2,000 and looks like Sid is not being Berserked, because you want to keep him maybe around Chemist. Means that's a lot of HP to get through when you're not swinging all that hard. So it'll be interesting to see what microKorgs does to get to the end phase of this fight. Does he just continue the hybrid strats, or does he stop the Berserks and just try to nuke through the last portion of it?
Yeah, the one nice thing I'll say about this party, and the thing I like about Sid, particularly at Zemus, is that he's just a hit point sponge. With 3,400 hit points, it would take a lot of effort to get him killed at this fight, so he can always help recover the fight if it ever goes sideways. And if you have those Cure 3s, he makes a pretty good White Mage impression, so I think this fight will be safe for Korgs. It might just be a little bit slow.
Yeah, because I think as kind of you were saying when we saw Pushwall doing this, Kane, yeah, he'll survive that Big Bang, but when you get to the point of the fight where it's Big Bang immediately into Virus, Kane would go down. Sid does not have that problem. Sid has just such a big pool of HP. He'll be able to live through eating all of those attacks and start getting some cures out. He is slow though, so that can be a little hard on your recovery portion, but at the very least he'll live through that and maybe pick up a faster character who can then continue doing the curing.
Also, while we have a brief moment while microKorgs is finishing out the Z fight, never got a chance to do this broadcast. I just want to shout out our team. Got Klopfer with me here in the commentary booth. Always a pleasure to do this with you. We've got Smeepd doing the restreaming, and we have a new community member. We have Fearon Burgundy doing our tracking. Also, a wonderful commentator, so I'll just say look forward to that in our free enterprise future. But yeah, this is our team. Definitely give them all a follow. They're great community members, and give our runners a follow. These two put on a fantastic show for us, and I'm sure there'll be a fantastic Game 3 coming as well.
Yeah.
Furon. It was like in my brain how to say your name, and then it like all information just was deleted. So I do apologize about that.
Of course, that
we'll blame Moonimer for that one.
The moment of panic when you need to do it. And definitely also give Solaris a follow. Pleasure doing this with you. Always a good time. As well as a very, very good... You have your own races coming up, as you are a very good runner in this free enterprise community as well. So do follow that as well as his races later on this week. I continue to have microKorgs here going through. Yeah, it's going to be a longer fight, but you're right. I think he does have good safety there in the Sid. Does have at least some Bacchus wines here to be able to keep the Berserks going on Kane. Definitely a harder part on this flag set, getting access to those Bacchus wines, as we're not able to buy them in stores. But you just throw it out to Berserk up a character, so fast for getting out Berserk casts and then damage being done by your melee attackers.
Yeah, the flag set, the part of that flag set that where we have no J items in shops, meaning the Japanese version items. For whatever reason, this game, when it came out in North America, they just decided to take out a number of spells and abilities, I guess to make it easier to play through. And all the Japanese items are just do mostly spell effects. And one of them is Bacchus, which casts Berserk on the user. Starval casts the Wall. There are a number of these. Not being able to buy them in shops in the randomizer is a very interesting wrinkle that every runner in this tournament has had to deal with.
Yeah, there's a handful that are just extremely high utility that is so useful to buy, Bacchus being one of the big ones. Hourglasses are also extremely useful, and Sirens being maybe one of the biggest ones. Just being able to turn on a grind as long as you can find where to buy them, and not being able to do that does introduce a lot of on-the-fly decision-making you need to do in each of these seeds.
Yeah, even just a Silk Whip, which is an item that casts it casts 2 slows at once. AoE, and really useful at Zeromus. You don't have to cast the slow spells twice. Even just not having access to that, especially in a flag set where you cannot guarantee what your agility setup is going to be. Definitely changes kind of how these seeds play out. It's very interesting. I've really enjoyed it as a runner, personally.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the big fan of the flags that we've put together for this tournament. There's a lot of interesting decision making that comes out of it. Sea Hero especially introduces a lot of agility situations you don't need to see in other flags.
Yeah, I love Sea Hero. It is definitely a challenge flag set. Really, any randomizer puts you in a situation where every seed that you play is different, but Sea Hero just sort of amplifies that even more.
microKorgs just hit rocks here. Just want to note that.
Yeah, so we're close to the end.
Yeah, so
Medio is the final phase.
Yeah. So microKorgs being very close to the end here with the HP levels he has. Again, looking very safe for him to make it to the end of this fight. Medio doing generally 900-ish points of damage per cast to your entire team, unless they're able to dodge it. So being able to just go ahead and throw those Cure 4s means he'll get through it. To throw a direct nuke there, didn't have time to throw out the Star Veil, which means he has to eat the counter nuke, although now Munimus has probably less than 1,000 HP left, so it would not be hard to finish off the fight.
I love the direct nuke into Rosa cheering. She's changing Rose, but since she can't do it yet, she's just cheering the team on.
Yeah. I'm sure microKorgs is expecting that nuke to end it with a 9k roll. It probably would, and really just have to get a slightly lower roll, so we need one more swing there from Spear.
And there we go. Past the finish line. microKorgs gets through the fight. GG's to him with an official time of 1 hour, 38 minutes and 4 seconds. And we're joined by Korgs now. GG's, microKorgs.
Thanks, Valeris. Hello, Clover. I took the 15 minutes after the finish and I started prepping dinner, and it occurred to me as I was doing that, the thing I was doing to prep for dinner is the exact thing I'm going to need to do Friday if I have any hope of moving on, because I was chopping time.
That took a second, but I love it. That was great.
And that's completely true. My fingers smell like time right now. It's a really lovely scent, but yeah.
I'm sorry, that destroyed me a little bit.
No booing from the peanut gallery. It's true. I mean, sure, it's a pun, but it's absolutely true. That whole thing felt slow to me. My D machine was I don't know what I was doing. Just a few equipment changes there that would have sped that up, but still wouldn't have improved the margin. I'm curious to see how quickly Pushwall got underground. He must have done a lot quicker than I did. GG Pushwall, of course. And we're going to give you a game 3 for a chance at the semifinals. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely very excited to see that game 3. I think you should go back and watch this and see the play. I think you pretty close all the way through there up until the underground, and so really I'll be really interested in you watching through this and finding out where you think you can cut that time, because you were really going pretty much at the same speed there through the entirety of this, so it's still very good high level play. I want to ask you the same question I asked Pushwall. What went through your mind when you within the first 10 minutes of the seed there, found that Wyvern and then found that Twin Harp and Antlion?
Darkness go mode. Where are you, Darkness? I'm gonna grab you. I'm gonna grab that Palom from package immediately and go do my grind. And hopefully, as a moon character, they didn't have to be a moon character this seed for some reason. And yeah, so it took a little while to get there. I was wondering the whole time because I chose not to check the shop in Eblin because of the one item to go mode and keep the Rydia down. So I was always in the back of my head, did Pushwall get the Leviathan and get through karate faster? But yeah, I mean, 13 minutes is a pretty big gap. So I got to play a little more like I did yesterday and much less like I did today as I attempt to chop off some time.
Yeah, for sure. And there definitely was that Leviathan in there that we saw in the fight. It definitely was, or getting through karate, a little challenging to keep that really up with those HP pools to cast out many Leviathans there.
Yeah, I was hoping that, because I saw that Odin at the top of tower, and I was wondering if being down a game, he would try to do Kanderstruck, because it's pretty easy to do at that spot. And I was hoping he got Rabbit Hole. I just knew from how I was playing that was my only chance of winning. I thought it might be a little closer, but yeah, that's a pretty resounding win for PW.
I would say that the main things that I noticed from the commentary booth of really the difference between the two really just came down to early game looting and execution. There were a couple fights like Pushwall cast weak against the guards at the Twin Harp instead of mute.
Yep.
After that a little bit faster. It's just like minor things like that. And then also picking up the Palom at the end from the package and being able to reflect kill probably sped up his Zeromus quite a bit, even though he had to spend the time going through the package.
Yeah, it crossed my mind, and then before we didn't talk about that specifically in spoiler, I wondered if he grabbed the Palom early and got like Virus at least, or maybe even Quake to get through karate. So yep, I'm definitely gonna watch it back. I did eventually cast weak on the guards after I kind of realized, but yeah, too late.
For sure. So what is your plan then? Well, I guess actually, one, is Game 3 scheduled yet? When can we catch that? Or
I believe it's Friday at the same time, 5 p.m. Friday. So we have a day off, and yeah, we'll go back at it for the chance to face, I think, Pancraz or Possum. So big comfy prize at the end for whoever wins this one.
Definitely. Yeah. What's your thought then with your day off then, and your play for the next game?
Yeah, just not a ton of practice. Just I don't really have a lot of time the next day or two. That's why we are skipping a day. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to play leaner and meaner, and try to outrace Pushwall. It's gonna be a challenge, but lots of fun. It's gonna be, as much as I wanted to win today, I know how fun it is to watch a Game 3, so it'll be super fun to run into Game 3.
Yeah, it was a blast to watch and commentate this race, and I'll definitely be looking forward to watching your Game 3. I think you two are very well matched up against each other. A lot of fun.
Great. Thanks for Smapety, Kloffer, Solaris, and looks like we have a new person on board, Ferran Burgundy. Welcome. Thanks for what you guys did, and I'll see you guys on Friday.
Great.
All right, Korgs. Thanks so much. GG's
again. Definitely big shout out there to both microKorgs and Pushwall for putting on a great race for us today. Do make sure to follow both of them for more good free enterprise content. They're both very talented runners, and make sure to catch Game 3, which I know will be an exciting one. Yep,
and also follow our team. Again, I've got Klopfer here doing the commentary, Ferran Burgundy doing our tracking, also a commentator of note in general, and Smeepty doing our restreaming. And join our Discord. Come hang out with us. Really great community. But in the meanwhile, we're done with this race, but we're not done with Free Enterprise in general. We're going to be heading over to Free Enterprise Prime main for Pancraz versus Possumorpheus Game 1. So there is more Free Enterprise in your future.
And please, just a reminder, no spoilers in that channel for this race that just happened here. Those people watching there might like to catch up on this one later. So please do not talk about what happened in this race in there. But otherwise, do go enjoy some more Free Enterprise. I'm sure that one will be another really exciting game. So enjoy, and thanks for joining us today.
Bye.